Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If becoming a mangaka in One Piece world. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 101, Expelling Fleet Navy Again. The Annoying Mihawk. Rob understood the situation well now. At first, he thought that only Broggy and Dory had suffered in this battle, but the reality wasn't what it seemed. The two giants managed to deal a severe blow to the Navy. Rob could see three vice admirals with serious injuries who were currently being treated, as he saw the torn corpse of the dead vice admiral. This made him come out of his angry state and rationally deal with reality. He was alone, while the other party had two admirals. It would definitely be a tough fight, assuming there would be a fight in the first place. This place is under my protection. You have done enough to destroy it, Marines. Why don't you leave now, and we finish this peacefully? Even though there was no hope of them leaving in peace, Rob said routinely, the face of the Navy was at stake. We can leave, of course, but you have to hand over the giants hiding in your store. They have a bounty on their heads. Sengoku didn't want to back off at all. Rob looked at Sengoku and said sarcastically, "You must be kidding, Sengoku. I have a bounty on my head too. Why don't you try to arrest me?" Sengoku was embarrassed by Rob's question. In fact, he had made a mistake in his earlier statement. He shouldn't have phrased his words that way, giving Rob a chance to wipe his face. "We have no orders to mess with a great pirate with a bounty of 850 million berries." That's all he could say to save what was left of his face. "Fleet Admiral Sengoku, believe me, we will have enough collisions and disputes in the future. Why don't we put all this off for later? You can use me as an excuse to get rid of the five elders scolding. Say, I've obstructed the course of justice or something like you used to do, but don't you even think about fighting me now, because I'm really not in a good mood. I might kill someone." When Rob said his last words, a cold shiver seemed to run through the air, making everyone who heard his words appear cold and sweaty. Even the strongest battle force, the admirals, sensed a sharp change in Rob's mood. This was an enemy of their own level, someone they should be wary of fighting because he could fulfill his words at any time. "What do you mean we will have a lot of collisions in the future?" Sengoku was feeling a bad omen because of Rob's words. He had a hunch that what the other party was saying would be true. "Since you don't want to back off, shall we fight then? Defeat me first, then try to get my friends out of my store, of course, if you can." "Your friends." Rob entered the store window and activated the protection field. What a joke, the Navy has already incurred a huge loss. There was little point in fighting them and causing trouble too much. If the Navy had not suffered any significant loss, he would undoubtedly have fought them, but everything changed after he learned the real situation on the battlefield. This was the first reason to avoid this battle. The second reason, he didn't want to completely destroy Little Garden. It had suffered enough. Another admiral-level fight would definitely destroy it. The moment the Golden Shield envelopes Little Garden Island, the entire Navy was expelled outside. Some fell into the sea near their ships while the majority fell on their ships. Damn it! He did the same move again. This barrier can't be crossed no matter what we do. This mission fails Sengoku. Zephyr stood on the warship as he recalled the events of that night in the Luneville Nation with an angry expression on his face. As he expected, every mission that Sky Sword Rob was a party to was likely to fail. Sengoku almost lost his temper when he heard Zephyr's confirmation. Very quickly, he turned into a Daibatsu again and threw an extremely powerful palm attack on the Golden Shield. But it was meaningless. Sengoku didn't want to give up and continued attacking with all the means he had, but none of them succeeded. As if he was trying to break a steel wall with an egg, nothing worked. In the end, he gave up with disappointment and returned to the warship. "What the hell is this, a turtle armor? What's it made of? And how can he kick us all off the island?" "I don't know, but what I am sure of is that the Sky Sword has a direct connection to this barrier." Zephyr was sure of that point. Returning to Rob, no longer interested in the Navy in any way, he quickly turned around and walked into the art store to check on Broggy and Dory. "You guys really have a strong vitality. When Rob walked in, he found the two of them sitting in the trendy tavern while they were enjoying champagne and whiskey while binge-eating pizza. Although their bodies were still full of wounds everywhere, their appearance of enjoying eating and drinking contrasted with the horrible state of their bodies. The Giants weren't surprised by Rob's quick comeback, because they were so confident in their friend's abilities. He hadn't disappointed them even once before after all. Come, eat some pizza, gabababa. Drink some whiskey too, gagiagia. You guys are really quite energetic, unlike the state of your bodies. Well, I kicked out the Navy. They won't bother you anymore in this place. I wanted to apologize to you guys, I was the reason. The observation hockey naturally alerted Rob, but he didn't avoid it. The next moment, the pizza hit the target, and Rob's face turned into a mess of cheese and tomatoes. Gababababa. Look at you, why didn't you avoid her? This is what I deserve. You can use your fists to punish me too. I won't resist, after all, you got into trouble because of me. A firm fist came from Dory before Rob could finish his words, but it didn't end with sending him flying as his observation hockey had predicted, but rather something surprising happened. Dory's hand stopped on Rob's chest and gently patted him. You cannot predict everything correctly, my friend. Rob's heart skipped a beat when he heard this. He was already prepared to loosen his body to receive Dory's furious blow, but against his expectation, it never happened. Rob's observation hockey reaches a terrifying level, where he can predict 5 seconds into the future, but even though he is tricked by Dory's tricky punch, Rob can't explain it at all. But even so, he definitely understood Dory's words. He was really touched. The future was unpredictable. Rob didn't expect the Navy to attack Little Garden with all their might, so he couldn't be blamed for that. That's what Dory meant. Let's go, guys, you need medical attention. Huh? Are you saying that the greatest giants of Elbath need medical attention? The smiles froze on Broggy and Dory's faces when they heard this. Giants don't go to the doctor. In the art store, the only warm place on the island of never-ending winter. Drum Island. Inside the medical ward, masculine screaming voices that were hoarse from time to time could be heard. You two have not changed at all. Even though you have obtained the size of a human, your brains are still the size of a bean. Dr. Correja stood between two medical beds. She looked like a woman with a mature body, but unfortunately, her old face was full of wrinkles, which contrasted starkly with her appearance in general. Since Rob brought both Broggy and Dory here, she didn't stop scolding them while treating them violently. Of course, Rob was surprised that the Giants and Dr. Correja were old acquaintances. But the biggest surprise was for the young women present. They couldn't believe their eyes when they saw the two giants, Broggy and Dory, who had seen them in the manga. But they weren't gigantic by any means. Only when Rob explained the situation slowly and in detail did they understand the situation well. The point was that from now on, the 15 women would have companions in the medical ward, and these guys were the pride of the giant race. The blue ogre, Dory. And the red ogre, Broggy. With their grease and their flesh. As the days went by, Broggy and Dory's comedy mood allowed depressed women to come out of their depressed state. Rob, Alvia, and the others were happy to hear their endless laughter as Broggy and Dory comically recount their centuries-old adventures. Interesting facts and things that even Rob didn't know about. Within a few days of this event, 2 new completed files were formed in Rob's mental library. They were the profiles of the 2 personalities, Broggy and Dory. While Rob was having a good time, the world government and the Navy weren't at all. Their failure in the mission, despite their use of a butcher's knife to cut vegetables, had significant negative effects on the spirit of the Navy in general. But the world government considered many things. In the end, they pressed their hearts and gnashed their teeth and kept things secret with an iron hand. They couldn't allow this ridiculous thing to spread because they would become a real laughingstock at that time. Marine Ford. Just what did the Sky Sword mean with those words, I wonder? In the Fleet Admiral's office, Sengoku was reviewing the last words he heard from Rob. The weight of those words was echoing in his mind the entire time. Feeling that it wasn't simple, the wise Admiral's wisdom started to work early on. Ohara. Boo! Mihawk and Ishu sat on a low rock on a hill overlooking the Ohara Sea. They were looking at the kind scenery at the end of the hill with different expressions. Young Ishu, who was blind by the way, was looking at the scene with a gentle smile. Although he was blind, he could see very clearly using observation hockey as well as vivid images that he retrieved from time to time whenever he entered the art store. But young Mihawk was different. He was looking at a man near the crowd of women with a fiery look in his eyes. He didn't even notice the big whale next to them. All he cared about was that man whose sword intent seemed as vast as the sky and deep as the earth. By the hillside, a whale appeared that was splashing water from time to time while a large group of women played with it. The group of women is made up of 15 women with smiles on their faces, the same group who had been in the care of Rob for some time after being rescued from slave traders on Ring Hell Island. Alvia, who is Rob's wife, Toki, who recently started working under the wing of Rob, Sora, Belmere, Rouge, and Matriarch, who were all veterans. They formed a tight-knit group as sisters with the same job, largely credited to Rob, while their like-female ideas took most of the credit. They were currently on a rest picnic while playing with the famous whale, Laboon, which made this place an important tourist attraction, so much so that Rob thought seriously about establishing an amusement park in this place, due to the large number of tourists who visit Laboon in this place. Of course, all this was under Rob's watchful eye. Rob's interest now was to complete this outing peacefully, but someone else wanted to fight him so hard, even though Rob had fed him dirt on more than one occasion since they last met. Chapter 102, Big Belly. 6 months pregnant. Fighting Mihawk. The nice picnic is over, and everyone is back to work happily and energetically, including the 15 women who have already overcome the tragic accident thanks to Rob and his group. They've been very grateful to Rob, that's why they all chose to work with him. Rob didn't reject them, so he decided to employ them. They would all work in special places like Sky Island and Women Island, etc. Their luck was really good after overcoming their ordeal. Rob contributed to this happy mood by introducing them to other means of entertainment. He brought a lot of entertainment from his previous world. He created a volleyball court and a tennis court in the place near the hill, using items from the system shop. Everyone played and had fun, except for pregnant Alvia, who was just an audience with her pet Laboon. Alvia was a big-bellied, pregnant in 6 months, less than 3 months from the birth. So Rob treated her like an egg with very, very close care. He forced her not to move around much, as well as suspending her job as the waitress chief and allowing Rouge to be in this position temporarily. Alvia couldn't do anything about it. She couldn't disobey her husband after all, could she? She obediently followed his instructions, until little Robin could be safely out to this world. In fact, she was thoroughly enjoying the meticulous care of her husband, though she felt unfairness to watch everyone enjoy playing except for her. Rob has temporarily cancelled many of his plans, such as going to Dressrosa and other islands in the New World. Previously, he had intended to go to Dressrosa, but he met the slave case, then clashed with the Navy, who attacked Little Garden in order to arrest Broggy and Dory. He was waiting for their reaction, so he couldn't leave O'Hara. Since he was busy, he didn't find any time to go to Dressrosa. All he could do was postpone the trip there. It's been half a year since Rob arrived in this world. He's lived every moment very well, but the most important thing is that the coolest point in his life is yet to come. His daughter Robin, who was close to birth. Rob had been waiting for that day so excited, anxiously, and with fatherly love. "Kid, I'm not interested in hitting kids. Why don't you come back after you're a full-fledged man?" Rob looked at Mihawk, who was 14 or 15 years old. Rob wasn't mistaken when he called him a child, because he was already a child by now. At that time, "You won't have a chance. Why don't you take advantage of the opportunity now and take a lot of points from the world's most powerful swordsman in the future?" PFT. Ha 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 ha. Hawk-chan, you're so amusing. Isho hasn't stopped laughing since he came to O'Hara with Mihawk. Every time Rob and Mihawk meet, it's going to be a first-class comedy scene. You see that? Even your friend laughed because of your high sense of humor. Rob smiled as he tried to hold his laughter from going out. His prestige would be lost if he did. Young Mihawk's face darkened as he heard Ishu's mockery. "Don't call me that again. Is he the strongest swordsman in the future?" Fufufu, he doesn't have any of his qualifications. Was the teacher intoxicated when he drew him? Near Rob was Doflamingo, who had only recently turned 11 years old. He was looking at Mihawk with apparent disdain under his glasses. "Little brat, if you want to die, I dare you to say it again." Who is the little brat? Rob becomes speechless when he sees the beginning of another storm of verbal altercations between Doflamingo and Mihawk. Little Rosinante was trying to stop Doflamingo while Ishu was pressing Mihawk with his gravity field so he wouldn't move. Kids, why don't you become friends? You both have a much higher starting line than most children in this world. I'm sure you'll understand each other well. Rob had a soft spot for the kids. In his eyes Buggy, Shanks, Mihawk, and Duffy were just kids who needed nurturing and direction. He never thought of them based on their majestic future personalities, except Buggy, but rather as kids who needed nurturing. Doflamingo. Who wants to be his friend? Mihawk, who wants to be his friend? Flashback. When Mihawk first came to O'Hara and asked Rob to fight him, Rob didn't think much and simply fought him. Or maybe we can't even call it a fight, because Rob didn't do anything and let Mihawk attack as he wanted. Mihawk's all attacks had no effect at all, as if he was hitting nothing. Mihawk felt a lot of pressure from Rob, which stimulated his battle intent to get stronger and stronger. He felt like he was starting to understand the sword intent more and more as he attacked Rob's body, which looked like an iron body, and not just flesh and blood. Because he wanted to deal a good blow at Rob so badly, he, without realizing it, succeeded in moving with an almost invisible speed that made Rob widen his eyes. Mihawk appeared behind Rob like an illusion and hit his back neck with great power using the black sword. Mihawk almost screamed for joy that he had gotten the chance he had always wanted, but before the black sword touched Rob's back neck, Rob took out a small dagger used to peel the fruit and easily stopped the black sword with it. Mihawk almost vomited blood at this moment when he remembered a certain passage from the manga. Not bad, boy, you at least made me pull something out. That was Shuunpa. Wasn't it? Your talent is really frightening. You're really worthy of the title of Hawk's Eye. Why didn't you use your sword? Are you making fun of me? No, it's not, but I don't have anything smaller than this right now, sorry. Mihawk. Issue. End of flashback. Since then Mihawk hasn't wanted to get away from Rob, he has been following him literally everywhere. Rob gave himself such a headache. Why is that? Because Mihawk wants Rob to use Surajiri's sword to fight him, or else he will chase after him forever, that's what he said. He'd been gossiping about a swordsman's honor and things like that all along. So his friend Isshu has been laughing the whole time since he followed Mihawk. Regarding Isshu, even Rob was surprised by this change of plot. He didn't think these two would become friends, but rather close friends because of him. The manga and art store made them become best friends. From what Rob heard from Isshu, they'd been going from one store to another together for about 3 months, not a short period in any way. This allowed them to get to know each other well and become good friends. Isshu came to look for him in order to thank him for the second chance he gave him in life. Rob's art stores were a light at the end of the tunnel for him. He didn't think he could see again since he blinded himself, but because of the art store, he was able to get such a miracle. His gratitude and respect for Rob was already at its peak. Rob was glad that he had received the gratitude of the future admiral, and that gratitude was another card in his sleeve. Then the days passed. Isshu and Mihawk met Rob's disciples, Doflamingo and Rosinante, in another training session and watched the basics of Rob's training for his disciples. They were so impressed with Rob's strict system, they also didn't think that they would find so talented kids like Doflamingo and Rosinante in this place. Not only that, they were the disciples of a person as formidable as the Sky Sword. If the world knew about them, there is no doubt that they would become the envy of millions. Since Rob trusted Mihawk and Isshu, he didn't stop them from watching his disciples train, and he didn't mind showing them his kids' abilities. Doflamingo was a user of Paramecia, the string fruit, and scary destructive abilities that made Mihawk and Isshu remember this kid's name well because he would undoubtedly become one of the stars of the future. Rosinante was also a user of Paramecia, the speed fruit, an ability far more dangerous than the string fruit. This little kid was so fast that everyone present was speechless. Without a doubt, Rob was raising two future monsters. That's what Isshu and Mihawk thought. Regarding Rosinante, Rob got this devil fruit by chance in the past when he was traveling over the Grand Line Sea. He found it on a pirate ship, so he took it by force. When Rosinante ate this devil fruit, he obtained a body endowed with the ability to move at extremely high speeds. This also allows him to survive falls from heights and collisions that would kill an ordinary person, has multiple and unpredictable uses, only a highly knowledgeable person like Rob can train to get the most out of. The user's ability to move at such high speeds not only made him immune to injuries arising from these speeds but also allowed him to inflict devastating blows at superhuman speeds. Moving quickly allows the user to dramatically increase the power of close-up attacks, turning them into a devastating force. Combined with Haki, the attack power increases much more. Not only was the effect of the speed fruit limited to this, but it could also be accelerated at the genetic level in a state of awakening, and before this frightening level the user could quickly process toxins and alcohol before their effects could damage the body, making them immune to such attacks. After their training session, Doflamingo and Rosinante looked at Mihawk in amazement. They already recognized him because he looks a lot like his older version in the manga. Because they had such an experience with Belmere and the people of her village. They saw them in the manga, they weren't very surprised, but what they cared about most was that Mihawk wasn't just an ordinary character in the manga like Belmere, but he was a Shichibukai and stronger swordsman in the world. Mihawk was so used to these stunning looks wherever he went, he was no longer ashamed or proud of them but rather started to relatively ignore them. But due to their childish nature, the children's feud between Mihawk and Doflamingo begins and could have turned into a fight had Rob not intervened. Tomorrow will be the update day of the new One Piece volume, so everyone was overly excited. That's why everyone was getting too excited to the point try and start a fight with someone for no reason. Chapter 103, Baroque Works Saga, Drum Island Arc. Was that done? Yes sir, but he refused. What did you say? He refused. Why did he refuse? Yes sir, he said he doesn't intend to work with the world government at the moment, but he also said. What else did he say? Speak out. He said he could teach the world government the basics of drawing manga, but it would be on his terms. Complete silence descended on the dimly lit room. The person speaking was a Cypher Pole Zero agent wearing a mask, while the person asking him was the new commander-in-chief of the world government, Kong. All 5 elders were in the room as well. Shameless. What does he think he is, even he wants to enforce his terms? Didn't our terms satisfy him enough? We have never given a title to a single person before in history. One of the 5 elders got angry after hearing this. This man went too far. Even though we turned a blind eye to his latest act by standing up to us in the little garden, he still dared to reject the olive branch we extended to him. Let's hear his terms first before deciding anything. This time the bald Gorosei talk. Yes, you're right, what were his terms? The agent in the mask looked a little tense when he heard this. He wanted 20 mixed types devil fruits, 10 famous swords as well as all 6 techniques. He said he was a merchant and this is fair trade. Effrontery. Does he want to steal us? Today was the most awaited day of the week. Update day of new One Piece folder. No one knows what the next volume will be, or what the next Straw Hat's destination will be, but everyone is excited to find out for sure. It will be interesting to read another part of the adventures of Luffy and his friends. Millions of people have become interested in the adventures of the Straw Hats, simply because they are so much fun. Plus, the last moments of the previous volume left everyone baffled. What happened to the navigation crew Nami? Now, they will finally know what will happen to Nami. The new volume is already on shelves in all 31 art stores. Undoubtedly, after a while from the release of the new One Piece book, it caused an uproar that spread to all parts of the world, from the 4 seas to the paradise part of the Grand Line and then to the New World. Not only that, but even in the sky, an island above the clouds wasn't spared from this spread. The 4 seas were the most affected by the manga, while the New World was the least affected, given the vast difference in the number of art stores in each region. But since the story is only just getting started with the events of the Grand Line, this was the best metric that Rob took. The number of art stores on the Grand Line will grow as the story goes deeper. This is how Rob does things. He wasn't doing it randomly, he was just following his master plan, and so far everything is in order. Baroque Works Saga, Drum Island Arc. That was the title of the new volume, its cover showing a snow-covered winter island. Drum Island. Grand Line, Drum Island. The Winter Kingdom was in a big uproar today, an endless uproar. They were on the world front, after all, their kingdom featured in their favorite story. That's something they couldn't imagine because everyone thought the story was going to go straight to Alabasta. Alabasta has already appeared at the end of the volume, and the Shichibukai, crocodile, appears in part as well. This was the beginning of the Alabasta nightmare, as the information appeared about the defection of 300,000 soldiers from the kingdom's army to the rebels, making everyone's body in Alabasta cold, from the king and the queen to the simplest citizen. But this was only the beginning because their arc hasn't started yet, they still have to wait. Inside the art store, an absolute silence enveloped the place. Everyone was reading the new chapters with an abnormal concentration. They were shocked to the core by what they saw: the royal family, the citizens, the doctors, the scientists, etc. There was no one left who wasn't so shocked today. Is this what their future will be like? Why does it look bleak? King Maypal felt as if he was going to pass out when he saw what his son would be like in the future, an unnatural desire to dispose of him in the trash. Though he was just an infant, if the queen hadn't stopped him he would have done so. The more they read this manga, the more they feel that their souls want to leave their bodies to enter the manga book. They had never felt this kind of feeling before, a feeling that only those who read about their island in the manga had before, such as the people of Fusha village, the people of Shimatsuki village, the people of Kokoyashi village, the people of Syrup village, etc. It was a special feeling that was repeated once in a lifetime, which can be explained scientifically, with an abnormal rush in the rate of adrenaline in the blood, which makes a person's enthusiasm rise impossibly. A little child who appeared to be 6 years old was holding a manga book while seeing his future self with the expression of an adult man, bearing all the cares of the world. Before today he was having fun like all the other kids in town, but now he was different. He felt as if his mood had become older than his age. That little kid was Dalton. Drip. Drip. A table in the trendy tavern got wet from the tears that had not stopped dripping from Dr. Hirolik's eyes. Since he started reading his flashback in the manga, and he is like this, in the beginning when he just started reading the manga, he was excited that his previous assumption was true, so Straw Hats really came to the drum to look for a doctor. But he gradually got upset when the situation of the kingdom began to unravel gradually. The king of the country, Wapol, the son of the current king, was really bad. Everyone knows that Wapol is 1 year old now, but he got a bad reputation even before he became aware of his surroundings. This is because everyone has become a believer in the manga unawares. When his flashback began, Hirolik feels his throat burning and tears starting to drip from his eyes and mucus from his nose unnaturally. It was a clear reflection of his emotional state. But that didn't stop him from reading the manga in its entirety. His first thoughts weren't what he's doing here? Or what the hell is this? Or how he appears here and why? He was so drawn to the story that he couldn't think of anything else. It seemed as if he had entered a kind of enlightenment. It was as if he could see the future. That was his future, and he was seeing, hearing, and interacting with it with all his being. Of course, his future wasn't perfect, but this was a perfect ending for a thief and a repentant criminal like him. His tears did not stop flowing even though he had finished the volume, because his dream, which he had just begun to study, came true in front of his eyes. He succeeded in making cherry blossoms bloom in the skies of the Winter Kingdom, or, more precisely, his future self succeeded in that. Despite all the difficulties his future version went through, it was all worth it. He has matured dozens of years because of this book and has had visions of the future that make him a real doctor instead of a quack doctor. In fact, he wasn't a quack in the truest sense of the word. He was just an unlucky doctor, who didn't quite fit in with the way of saving lives and was relatively inexperienced. But others didn't know this, only Dr. Kureha knew this. His eyes were blurred because of the tears, then had turned to cherry pink as he came back to see the manga page. When Dr. Kureha fired the cannonball to paint the sky of Drome with his pink medicine, Chopper's crying affected him so severely that he overlapped with his future character for a moment, and he started screaming and crying, repeating words like, "Don't cry, my son, I'm not going to die, Chopper," and others. He lost his awareness of reality and the present time completely. Because of that, he didn't notice that many people got up from their seats and touched his shoulder in homage before leaving the store with complicated emotion. They were not the heroes of this part, but the doctor, whom they considered a quack, was the hero. His idea of healing everyone's hearts with cherry blossoms may have been just a stupid idea that helped him in the past to heal his soul, but the same idea he studied for 30 years in the manga and 3 years in reality actually works for it now. He managed to cleanse their souls just by seeing it in the manga. They saw the result of it all. They understood Dr. Hirolik very well now. He was a wonderful human being before he was a quack. He had a kind heart, so he was the right doctor for them. In the past, no one understood him, they all ignored him and even scolded him violently. His notoriety hadn't yet reached a serious stage like in the manga, but even so, he was unwelcome and somewhat hated. But now these ideas about him have fundamentally changed. Someone like him deserves all the love and respect. People like them, who had hurt a cute animal like Chopper, really needed treatment. At this moment, only 3 people remain in the art store: Dr. Hiralik, Dr. Kureha, and a guest from afar, Dr. Trafalgar. Dr. Kureha wiped her tears as a big smile betrayed her face. He. I'm getting too emotional. Maybe I should crush that bastard Rob next time I meet him. He should give back every tear I lost today. Trafalgar D. Chris looked at Kureha, then at Hiralik with amazement and complex emotion. His eyes were wet too. One dies when people forget him. What a great saying, what a great man. I bow in reverence to the greatest doctor I have ever seen. Trafalgar D. Chris, who was here to make medicine for his people, stood up and really bowed in the direction of Hiralik with all respect. Chapter 104, Toki Thoughts. Dragon is in trouble because of the manga. Luffy's determination stunned fans all over the world. So it was a Kisha insect. Kureha was surprised to hear the name of this extinct insect again. What seriously amazed her young mind is that she already has emergency vaccines well hidden in her home. How did Rob know about it? No one knows. And here I am 139 years old. Mathematically, since I'm only 112 years old, this means that this story will happen 27 years from now. My youthful body is still in its prime even at that time in the distant future. Trafalgar D. Chris and Hiralik both looked with bewildered expressions at Kureha, who was talking to herself while showing off her youthful body. They didn't expect the author of this book to know this old witch so well, to draw her so well. Her character now, and her character 27 years later, they were basically one character without an iota of difference. Kureha looked toward Hiralik and she said sternly, "When Chopper is born, don't dream of taking him away from me. I've raised him and taken care of him longer than you have, so just forget about this matter." "What did you say, old witch?" "Chopper is my son. I won't let you take him from me no matter what." Another battle of words was just beginning. After a long period of yelling at each other and threatening each other, it seemed as if the atmosphere of the conflict had subsided. Trafalgar D. Chris couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief when he saw this. "Don't go out of the art store tonight," Kureha said without caring as she went back to browsing the manga. Browsing through the times she appeared while the stars glimmered in her eyes from time to time. Her futuristic look was simply gorgeous to her. "Why? We'll be kicked out anyway at 10 at night." "You will not be fired. I have put you on my patient list. You will remain in the medical ward inside the store." Ha! It seemed as if Hiralik didn't understand anything, so Dr. Trafalgar stepped in to explain the matter to him. "Dr. Kureha has rights delegated by the store owner. She can stay in the store even after it's closed, and she can allow certain people to stay with her. There is a medical ward in this store inside the store owner's personal section, saying that it means she chose you to stay in the medical ward." Hiralik looked at Chris, then went back to Kureha and said, "Why do you want me to stay in a medical ward?" Kureha removed her gaze from the manga book and asked softly, "Do you want to live?" "Of course, I want to live. Who wants to die? You haven't got any incurable disease yet. We must prepare your body to be ready to fight. This is the best time for your recovery. The disease will die before it even begins to form. I have the means to heal you from a deadly disease you have not yet had." "Oh. Really?" When he heard this, Hiralik stood up and looked at Kureha in shock. Far from Drum Island, exactly in the East Blue Konomi Archipelago, Kokoyashi Village, a red-haired girl sat on a low hill overlooking the sea, while beside her, 2 young kids were also enjoying reading manga, plus a green-haired beauty with a traditional Japanese dress. The 2 kids were Doflamingo and Rosinante, and the green-haired beauty was Toki, of course. 15-year-old Belmere breathed a sigh of relief when she saw Nami's condition improve in the manga. Damn to the prehistoric bugs, Kisha, or whatever her name is. Toki smiled sweetly before replying. She was fond of this cute little girl. "Why do you curse insects now?" "This is because causing my daughter to suffer. She almost died. If she didn't have a great and caring captain and a real man like Luffy, she would have already died." Toki's eyes flashed as she peered through the pages of the manga, Belmere's worried face. Since her fate is linked to an abnormal variable like Rob, she begins to encounter abnormal events that make her doubt life. She has spent days doubting her own ability. Did her time ability send her to an illusionary space-time tunnel instead of the real world? But that was also illogical because that meant her death, but she's still alive. She's been traveling in time to the future for years. Maybe it was just a few years for her, but for the world, it's been 800 years. Since she ate that cursed fruit while facing supernatural events after another to reach this stage, she has faced many different civilizations and eras, some of which still exist and some of which have already disappeared in the wake of history. But what she is facing now at the last moment before reaching the desired goal, scattered all her papers, and made her brain enter into endless confusion. She wasn't as ignorant as everyone else, she was someone who could predict the real future, although it's not as clear as the manga, but that didn't change that fact. In the early stages of her time travel, the future she saw was stable. In the middle stages, that future began to become blurry, and in the later stages, it became completely foggy. She couldn't see a clearer future anymore. She didn't see herself with Odin or any of her children. She didn't even know who Odin was. She didn't see anything about Wano or anything else after the 2 years in the original story. But now, the reason was so obvious right in front of her eyes. The variable, Rob, was manipulating the future. She didn't blame him for that because she didn't know his reasons, but that was a very big problem for someone like her who carried with her the hopes and messages of many people from the past. Sister Toki? Why do you seem so overwhelmed by your thoughts again? At this moment, Belmir's words woke her up from her thoughts. Ah, nothing. I was just thinking about how similar you are to Nami. Toki smiled a captivating smile and changed the subject. Hee, of course, she'll look like me, she's my daughter. I haven't got her yet, but Big Brother Rob promised to bring Nami and Nojiko into my arms. I'm looking forward to that day. Did Rob say that? How would he do that? Will he kidnap them from their original families? They were abandoned by their original families because of a civil war on Oikeat Island. That's what we all saw. So what if their families didn't choose to abandon them and hold on to them in the future? I don't think they wouldn't recognize them if they were born at all. Belmir felt her body shake when she heard this. She had never thought of it before. Doflamingo looked toward Toki with a pensive look. He was a smart kid. He could tell that this new big sister wasn't simple at all. Marine Ford. Fleet Admiral's office. Ace? Why is this person looking for Luffy? Garp was immersed in reading the manga leaked from Mary Geos until he came to the mysterious scene where Ace first appeared. He had a vague sense of familiarity with this kid who didn't look far from Luffy's age. Although his face was a little dark, that didn't hide the features at all. Garp wasn't the only one questioning about this character, Ace. All One Piece fans were wondering about him. Even a dangerous pirate like Blackbeard, who was mentioned in this arc, they were bewildered about him. Just when will these mysterious characters appear? Boom! Garp, you bastard, don't change the subject. The world government is in chaos because of your son. Why don't you answer me, you bastard? Sengoku angrily hit his desk. What do you want me to answer you, Sengoku? Garp looked into Sengoku's eyes with an angry look and spoke softly, causing Sengoku to back off slightly. I have asked you many times, but you ignore my question and talk about how great your grandson was and how he could easily climb a 5,000-meter ice mountain with carrying 2 people, how strong his will is and… Man, we are discussing a serious matter. The 5 elders are serious about questioning your son. On what basis do they want to interrogate him? My son hasn't caused any problems. This time the author mentioned Mary Geos' Holy Land directly in the manga. Mary Geos is boiling because of this. There are opponents and there are supporters. The numbers aren't much different. He didn't mention them as a bad thing but only mentioned a small part of the Levely event that was perfect, too much so that the world government thinks there are spies among them who pass on the details to Rob. This isn't really a big incident. The 5 elders didn't pay much attention to it, but rather were glad that the author gave them a face and called it the Holy Land of Mary Geos as it is, so they skipped the subject. But Sengoku sighed before continuing his words. What happened next is the real problem. The rebel leader called Dragon spreads his dangerous ideas. In 5 or 6 years he will be a dangerous enemy of the world government. This saying is what he said. Thalassa Lucas, the young and newly appointed king of Alicia, supported in his speech by Nefertari Cobra, the newly appointed king of Alabasta, but not approved by King Wapol, the king of Drum, who was newly born before only a 1-year-old and now he's a royal prince. The secret truth-seeking project, which the world government is working on, got a breakthrough yesterday because of this part. Do you want to hear what they've come up with? It's kinda scary. Garp's eyes twinkled when he heard this. I suppose you want to hear more. Well, I will tell you, that is because you are my friend and I don't want you or your family any harm. The fact that Sky Sword, Rob uses an unknown method of looking into the future is confirmed by 20%. Garp's body trembled when he heard this, before standing up and trying to leave, but he stopped before that and said, I will not allow my son to become a revolutionary. Tell the 5 elders this, there is no need to punish him for something he hasn't done yet. After saying this, he left the office. Well, my old friend, that's for the best. Today, the One Piece manga, which everyone thought was just a fantasy, has caused a huge problem for the monkey family. All over the world, the new volume set everyone's blood on fire with enthusiasm. This arc carried with it a lot of great feelings and sayings that will remain in history. Perhaps they will not be repeated once in this world, but the fact that it will remain forever in the manga and will be heard by a large number of people was enough. No, but its impact was much deeper and incredibly true because no one knew it existed. But now, it's a different story. Everyone knows there's a very great quack with a gold heart. Hiralik, that's fine. No one's sick. Dalton. Hiralik, I really though, it was an emergency, but it was nothing but a trap for me. Wapol, ha. If this was an emergency, I wouldn't have called a quack like you. Idiot. Wapol, don't worry about him. Shoot on the rebel. Hiralik, forget this, you can't kill me. Wapol, what? Hiralik, when does one really die? Hiralik, when a pistol's bullet pierces his heart? No. Or when afflicted with an incurable disease? No. When he eats a soup made of a killer mushroom? No. Rather, a person dies when his memory dies. Maybe I disappear, but my dream will live on after me, and people's sick hearts will be healed. This passage brought tears to all who read the chapter without exception. On this day, many evil pirates turned good and resigned from the pirate path, just because of Hiralik's words. Their hearts had already been cured. On the same day, the hearts of some celestial dragons that were already rotting started to glow slightly. In addition to this, everyone knows that there is a witch and a mysterious old woman whose medical skills are almost impossible, and most of all she knows a lot about the inherited will and Gold Roger. Gold Roger. Everyone knows that Luffy's inherited will, so strong that it made lovers cry. He was a true leader and a real man. Who can climb an ice mountain 5,000 meters high while carrying 2 people? This particular act moved the hearts of the followers and made almost everyone yearn. Is he even a human? Monkey D. Luffy, this name who was unborn yet in this world, was resonating in everyone's hearts because of this arc. Before this, everyone thought he was just a stupid boy driven by instinct. But after this arc, everyone has come to believe that Luffy is a true captain who prefers his friends over himself. His sacrifice was too great. Chapter 105, Attend the Big Mom Tea Party. The emotional uproar caused by the new volume was still in effect, not over yet, and it didn't look like it would be over anytime soon. In markets, in the streets, in folk baths, in residential villages, in densely populated towns. Not only that, in Sky Island Skypiea. In Women's Island Amazon Lily. In the Sand Kingdom Alabasta. In Marineford and Mary Geos. And even in a closed country to the world like Wano Kuni. Everyone was still discussing the wonderful events of One Piece. Not only civilians but even pirates and marines were discussing the events of One Piece with enthusiasm. The world entered a phase of suspense that it had never seen before. But unfortunately, a large part of the Grand Line is still unable to access the manga, and almost all of the New World was without manga. Only a few places the manga pirates, aka the manga thieves, were succeeded in accessing it, like Morgans, who became a pioneer in this field. After all, the New World has only 3 art stores.
One of them is in a closed country, Wano Kuni.
And another one is on a semi-destroyed island which is the newly named Ringhell Island. Although many people came to check out news about what happened here, few were able to get to the art store, which was an inaccessible ghost place. It was between two deep rivers of lava. And the latter was very far from everyone's reach because it was in the sky on the flying island of Golden Lion Shiki. New World, the flying island of Merville. Jahahaha. That's fun, that's so much fun, that old witch Kureha is still alive. Oh my god, I thought she was already dead. You. Come over here. Go get me some more of that instant noodles. Yes, that's one called Indomie or something. Yes, Captain. A pirate Shiki follower goes to the food vending machine with cursing inwardly. He's back to the money-devouring monster once again. If you ask all Shiki pirates what they like and hate the most at the same time, their answers will be 100% the same. Money-devouring monster, aka food vending machine. Can you imagine instant noodles, warm and ready to eat, selling for 2,000 berries? One can of Coca-Cola for the price of 1,500 berries. One can of Red Bull for the price of 3,000 berries. A bottle of vodka at the price of 10,000 berries. Hamburger sandwich for 1,000 berries. Everything was over 1,000 berries. If this isn't a predator for money, what could it be? The manga books are the only ones they think are worth their price, even though they really aren't. The price was 5,000 berries for the book. What they didn't know was that Rob raised prices sky high for them. Compared to the original market, Rob was clearly stealing their pockets. But that's what they got themselves done. Rob didn't ask them to buy any of his stuff. But how can he say this when he is the only market monopoly? His goods were first class, whether food or products for use in daily life, they were really first class. So the Shiki and his pirates can only swallow their grievances and buy until their pockets are emptied and they have to fill them again. Shiki devoured the warm noodles while recalling the ancient history. When Kureha was the doctor of the Rock's crew, she had saved his life more than once, so he owed her so much, but his volatile personality made him unfortunately unable to show his gratitude. And that's how he got an idea. He has to go and try to hire her in his crew. He still wants to be the pirate king, so his crew definitely needs the best doctor in the world to be on his ship. Was she an old woman on the verge of death? Never mind, that woman couldn't die anyway. Ohara, Knowledge Village, in the house of Rob and Alvia. On a king-size bed, Rob was reclining on the bed while Alvia slept in his cuddle. He spent the day with her like this, gently stroking her hair and singing to her until she fell asleep. She had been working hard for him before, and this period of inactivity made her so sad, so Rob had to console her a little and spend the whole day in bed with her. The latter volume of the manga contributed to her deteriorating mood. Coupled with a difficult pregnancy, her emotions were in tatters. Robin's appearance in the last part of the volume was like the straw that broke the camel's back. She was sad to see her daughter working with an evil organization. Not only that, but she was at the head of the organization and a direct partner to the head of the organization. Isn't that too much? Why was her husband so mean? This way, their unborn child will become infamous. That's exactly why Rob spent an entire night trying to calm her down from her frenzied situation. She was like a lioness fighting for her young. Rob got goosebumps when he remembered it. When he noticed she had finally fallen asleep, Rob sighed and drowned his face in her soft hair, trying to take advantage of his wife's sweet scent to sleep a bit too. After hours, Alvia woke up first. She used her husband as a bed to sleep. Well, it wasn't the first time for her, she was used to it, but when she saw him sleeping too, she didn't move anymore so as not to wake him. But Rob's sharp senses sensed everything already. Even though he was asleep, his senses were always on alert. His observational hockey, powered by the tremendous electromagnetic power of the lightning fruit, allowed him to cover the entire Ohara Island and even its coasts. So it could be said that his senses were like aircraft radar that could pick up everything. "Good morning, my husband, did you sleep well?" Her smile was like spring washing away all his negative emotions. "Yeah, it was a good nap. I suppose you're in good shape too, right?" "Of course. I feel great relief." "So it's good." Before she could react, her delicate body trembled as he snatched her lips in an unusual French kiss once more. He'd always do something like this, but for some reason, she used to loosen her defense when in his arms, like a chick caught between the claws of a cat. there was no resistance at all. Rather, she allowed herself to enjoy and drown in the depths of lust. Rob's tongue sank into her mouth like a snake that had just caught its prey, twisting its tongue like a rope while sucking every bit of it. And so they enjoyed a long kiss while touching each other in their sensitive areas. Rob grabbed her breasts with one of his hands while the other gently held half of her playful buttocks. Alvia hugged his head with one hand while sucking his saliva fiercely, while her other hand went in search of his cock and began to gently stroke it. Her moans were like heavenly music in his ear. Just a small game like this made them reach the climax of ecstasy together. This was the power of love. After a sweet and slight fight, Rob got out of the house. Now, he was ready to come to a party he had been invited to a long time ago. Regarding the invitations, he had received a strange invitation from the world government recently that left him really speechless. As he walked toward the art store, he was laughing internally at the stupidity of the world government. In fact, their offer was completely inappropriate for someone like Rob. Does the world government need to recognize it? Want to cancel his bounty? His bounty alone was a kind of recognition from them. Why would he want to cancel it? He really wants to raise it. Do they want to get the basics of manga drawing? They asked for something too big, but they didn't give him anything of value in return. Do they consider him easy to please? Do they want to bully him? What a joke! They don't want him to insult the face of the world government in the manga? Sorry, but the One Piece manga is full of insulting the world government. He can't even modify that even a little bit. After greeting the residents of Ohara and chatting for a while with the women eager to work, the newly appointed leader waitress, the wife of his former Captain Rouge, Sora, Toki, Belmere, and matriarch, Rob used the teleportation room and went straight to the new world. His wild thoughts were studying the beauty of the maids' clothes with the hot designs and sexy details on the wonderful bodies of his waitresses. Only someone like Rob who knew the beauty of the maids' clothes could enjoy it. He was in bliss. Who can hire the main characters as maids? He was afraid that when Roger found that, he would kill him before he died. Oh. He couldn't die, unfortunately. Rob shook his head from his wild thoughts, and walked out of the Ring Hell art store. As he expected, it was empty and desolate, like a ghost store. The island was filled with rivers of lava, smashed rocks, and scorched trees. His previous attack had truly destroyed this island. Rob opened his wings and flew at breakneck speed, following Lean's life card. Yes, he was going to the Big Mom tea party. He never thought he would attend such a party since he will be a strategic partner of Big Mom. Maybe he will add some exciting changes to the future tea parties of this hot MILF. The current year, 1493, was already coming to the end. These were the last 2 days of the last month of the year. Today's date is December 29th, 1493. It's time to officially open up his market in the new world. Chapter 106, Opening an Art Store in Totoland. New World, Whole Cake Island. Whole Cake Island was very familiar to Rob. After all, the Whole Cake arc had shown pretty much every place on this island. Although it's a bit different from its future counterpart 28 years from now, the difference wasn't too big. The island was almost entirely made of food and candy. Rob takes a period to wander around the island without entering the sweet city. Big Mom pirates not yet aware of Rob's arrival. Rob felt that this wonderful place would be very good as a park for his daughter and his family in the future. So he spent a few hours wandering inside to find out the special places and how to create a paradise for his little Robin from this place. He wandered into the seducing woods. Since he had Big Mom's Vivre card on him, these evil trees didn't create any kind of trouble for Rob. He also came across a wooden house that made him instantly remember Lean's flashback when she was just a little child. This was Mother Carmel's sheep's house. Obviously, it was brought here from Elbaf by Big Mom. Rob's observation hockey completely covered Whole Cake Island. It's reached a level that even Big Mom can't detect. The first thing he noticed was a crew of different types and races here, except for the giants, and there are still other races missing as well. As Big Mom hasn't reached its peak yet, the number wasn't quite as big as its future counterpart, but it's still a good number. Whole Cake Island was primarily inhabited by the Big Mom crew and her allies, but today especially, because Charlotte Linlin organizes her annual tea party, a good number of guests have turned up including Rob himself. The number of guests was also not as large as what they would be in the future. After all, Big Mom's reputation hadn't reached her peak, she was still lower than Emperor level. This is the era of Roger, Whitebeard, and Shiki, after all, not the era of the four emperors. So only a few underworld merchants and some relatively famous powers allied with the Big Mom pirates attended this party. Basically, the most important person invited to the party was Rob himself. After he was done wandering and enjoying the quality of this place, Rob walked towards Sweet City, the capital of Whole Cake Island, exactly where the Vivre card indicated.
Mama. You have finally come, Sky Sword. Do you know how long I have waited for this day?
I see you enjoyed walking around my island. Did you like it?
I can make a place here for you if you want.
Charlotte Linlin was 8 meters in height, looking at Rob as if he was a dwarf, but she didn't care. She knew that this dwarf was stronger than her, so the height here really didn't matter. She was the abnormally tallest and it wasn't him who was too short. Rob wasn't surprised that she was able to tell that he was roaming on her island. After all, the entire island was alive because of her. She could feel everything inside of it. But most importantly, as he was sitting next to Big Mom, alone, without any external disturbance, he was once again in awe of this woman's allure. Her soul was so powerful. Back then, she was completely suppressed by the art store, but now in her land, she looked completely different. Her soul power was pressing on him, wanting as if she wanted to push him down. He could sense it clearly, as if her naked physical body was pressing on his body. Her origins were too huge for him. He didn't know if he was in heaven or hell. Rob shook his head and easily overpowered her spiritual attack. It was difficult to seduce someone like Rob. Only from this kind of behavior could Rob easily conclude that she wanted to sleep with him so badly. She only had to remove her clothes and force him to. Rob had very thick skin, so he shrugged off this temptation as if it didn't exist. Big Mom was now like a succubus demon, but Rob was a demon lord himself. Rob smiled and said, "That would be a nice gesture from you, Linlin." Giving him part of her land was already a nice gesture from her. He didn't care about her motives, but he really wanted to get a foothold in this pleasant place. Linlin was astonished by Rob. He being able to resist her spiritual temptation that not even Shiki could resist made her deeply stunned.
Never mind, that's only for you. I can make such an exception. I see no other man than you worthy of it.
Big Mom desperately wanted Rob's support. At this point where she had yet to reach her peak, she couldn't count on that ungrateful bastard Kaido, who she had given him the mythical devil fruit, but he didn't even show the slightest obvious gratitude. Also, Kaido is still weak compared to Rob in her eyes.
I heard you fought the golden lion to a tie, is that right?
Rob, who was drinking a glass of grape juice, stopped drinking and looked at Big Mom curiously, although it wasn't unexpected, but it still surprised him.
Where did you hear that?
I have my own sources, and I'm not the only one who knows about that. The Navy knows about that too. Rob understood right away. Shiki had black sheeps among his crew who were leaking the news. It's good that he didn't show his full strength then, it would have really disturbing effects.
Well, he doesn't care about it anymore. When will your tea party start?
I have to finish my part of the deal quickly.
Tea party time.
Almost all of Big Mom's high-ranking children were present. After all, they were all born already on this date, and had a certain level of development. Some of them were in their 20s, but most of them were young, between 15 and 19 years old. There are also some very young children who were under 10 years old, who would be the mainstays of future Big Mom pirates like Charlotte Smoothie. At Big Mom's tea party, Rob saw all of Linlin's children combined. The number was 35 or 36 in total. Big Mom hasn't given birth yet to many other children, and maybe because of him, she might not have them at all, like Charlotte Pudding, Lola, and her twin sister. And he hadn't seen any of these children's parents. It seemed like Big Mom was throwing them all away after using them once. Since Rob was sitting next to Big Mom, he got a lot of attention from her children and the guests. Some even thought he was their new stepfather. But when they were reminded of his identity, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. This was the famous Sky Sword with a bounty of 850 million berries.
How much was their mother's bounty at the moment? 600 million berries, that's what it was.
Rob didn't care about the dreaded looks at him, but what surprised him was a familiar face among the crowd at the party, who was looking at him with a gentle smile. She was a very beautiful and sexy blonde woman. She looked extremely young at 22 years old or maybe less. Her blonde hair was long to the waist, unlike her future short hair, and her eyes were blue like jewels. When Rob looked at her carefully, she was also looking at him. Suddenly, she smiled seductively and winked at him while sending him a kiss through the air.
Mama. Were you seduced by that little bitch?
Linlin noticed this and let out a chuckle. Rob could sense a kind of anger hidden behind that laugh. It was definitely directed at that blonde.
Although Rob knew exactly who the woman was, he asked about her. Who she is?
She's a newbie in the prostitution businesses. She's probably more of a whore than me. You have to beware of that kind of woman with a fake smile.
Since you hate her, why did you invite her to your party?
She was recommended to me by important acquaintances, and her presence is important in my expansion plans in the underworld, so she can be considered a rather important pawn.
You really are something, Big Mom.
Rob ignores the blonde woman for the time being and goes back to chatting with his future business partner, Big Mom. If you plan to expand and rule the underworld with me, just say it, I can help you.
No, thanks, I like working under the light.
/N, a high-level hacker, said he likes working under the light, ha ha ha. Rob gets to know Stussy. This seductive beauty was a secret agent of the world government. Her presence here means that everything he did here will be leaked to the world government.
But is Rob upset about this?
No, not at all. Since it's a public party organized by Big Mom, the fact that he's here today will be revealed anyway, and then this was already written in stone. So it doesn't matter whether the world government finds out about it or not. He was here to open an art store just as he opened it for them at Mary Geo's. What can they do for him?
Come on, Rob, can you start your store now? I want to see it happen during the party. It will be the culmination of my tea party.
You just want to eat more of the food the store sells, right?
Rob laughed when he saw Linlin's saliva almost drooping when she heard him talking about his store's food.
Her thoughts were betraying her at the speed of light. The more he talked to her, the more he found her to be very simple-minded. Perhaps all the contradictions that happened to her were caused by the soul devil fruit, or perhaps the second soul which inhabiting inside her body. The one whose soul and life had obtained transcendence could tell with a glimpse that Linlin was two people in one body.
Okay, I can do that for you.
Big Mom happily announced that Rob will be setting up his art store now. The music and people chatting to each other stopped as soon as Big Mom spoke.
Everyone was wondering what this art store could be. After all, not everyone in the world knew about the art store.
Only after Big Mom explained it to them did they understand the gist of the matter. The art store was a dominant brand in the 4 Seas. Of course, they had heard of it before, but they didn't really care. Only now their eyes were open to the importance of the topic.
What does this store sell to grab the attention of someone of Big Mom's caliber?
No, just having someone higher in bounty than Big Mom as an owner completely changed their perception of the matter.
That's why everyone is focused on Rob's next move.
And what they saw left their minds blank.
Rob looked at the place that was designated as a convenient placement for the art store. A large candy garden in the center of Sweet City, near Big Mom's whole cake castle.
As soon as he ordered the system, the void in the candy garden twisted, and a futuristic designed building appeared out of thin air in front of everyone. The candy garden was large, but the art store was big enough to take up the entire place.
What is this? Is this a building? How did it appear out of nowhere?
What kind of devil fruit does he have?
Status window. Host, Rudes D. Rob.
System level, level 9, 1.456.678/1, 500,000 EXP.
Art store, 32/100 usable. System shop, 800,450 art point.
Host titles, beginner mangaka, art seller.
Store window, manga One Piece. +9 books, /manga bleach.
+5 books, /One Piece anime. +0 episodes, /Hunter x Hunter anime. +0 episodes,
Naruto anime.
+0 episodes.
Chapter 107, The Big Day is Approaching. Arrancar Arc, Part 2. January 1st, 1494.
Big Mom's tea party is over, and with it, the previous year has ended, and the new year has begun. Rob spent 2 days at Whole Cake Island. He genuinely enjoyed Linlin's hospitality. She was very kind to him, so he reciprocated her and accepted her request to stay an extra day.
Since the art store appeared in this place, it seemed as if the general mood of the island had completely changed. No, what really changed was Linlin's mood, and since that happened, it affected the entire island.
Linlin was so happy that the flowers with happy faces bloomed, even trees, buildings, and bridges danced everywhere. If Linlin was happy, it would reflect on the whole island, and of course, any other mood. Right after the art store opened, Linlin didn't care about anything else and she walked inside. While the stunned guests followed her, Rob let everyone in, and they were also curious to know what kind of store it would allow enjoying the future.
Then Big Mom's children also entered, led by young Katakuri.
They were all interested in this store. Their siblings had already told them about it before, but now, they could try it for themselves.
Montdior was the last to enter.
He was visibly afraid of Rob, and he was careful not to be knocked unconscious again by Rob's attack as he had done in the past. Those who had entered the art store previously in the Germa Kingdom were extremely excited even if they didn't show it on their faces. But their other siblings who didn't were, they only felt with expectation, but that changed right after they walked inside. This was the most enjoyable entertainment they could get in the world.
Inside the art store,
Linlin read all the manga volumes she missed, Bleach and One Piece, and when she walked out of the store, Rob heard her mumbling the word giants over and over. Just now, Rob remembers how obsessed this crazy woman was with giants and their strength. It was an obsession beyond all words. During the 2 days that Rob spent on Whole Cake Island, Linlin annoyed him greatly with her endless questions about Broggy and Dory. If he hadn't stopped her, she would have left for Little Garden already. She realizes that he is a friend of theirs, so she tries to use this bond to try to get closer to the giants. She didn't tell him about her bad history with the giants, which he already knew, but she desperately tried to entice Rob to help her talk to the giants about her and put her in good words. Rob didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He kind of understood that Linlin was deeply remorseful for what she had done in the past in the land of Elbaf. This was a deep regret, evident on her already pretty face, but he couldn't promise her that he could mend the relationship between her and the giants. Maybe he can help a little, but even that he has to wait a long time when he draws Big Mom arc in the manga in the future. Then the world will know Big Mom's real past, what kind of real Big Mom was in the past, and the real reason behind everything. 2 days later, Rob was in Ohara again. He finished his first step into the new world and returned to Ohara via the art store. Rob has been very worried lately. Even his waitresses noticed his nervousness. He was tenser than the pregnant woman herself. The big day was getting closer and closer, only 2 months left at the most, for Robin's birth. So how do you not get worried? Even if he was sure that everything would be fine since Alvia was now semi-immortal and had a vitality that not even Kaido had, he was still worried though. She wasn't really immortal after all. If she wasn't an immortal just like him, he wouldn't rest. Plus his newborn Robin herself wasn't immortal. What if his presence causes something to go wrong? He's been living pretty well lately. What if the gods who sent him here tried to play some kind of cruel joke on him? His frightful thoughts were wandering everywhere, and he could only calm himself with nicotine. His cigarette consumption had reached an unbreakable record in these 2 days. There was still a couple of months to Robin's birth, so there was no point in overthinking. Nothing bad would happen as long as he was here, so he was just tired of thinking. To get out of negative thinking, Rob spent the next week most of his time with Alvia. They were wandering and enjoying their time on Sky Island, here where he hired 15 women he had previously rescued. For their part, their lives here were just like heaven. Rob and Alvia were thrilled when they heard their tales of how wonderful their lives here were. Their faces were full of happy smiles as they served the angel-like Skypian children in the trendy tavern of the art store. Rob and Alvia had their happy days in the house they bought on a cloud that, after Rob modified it with furniture from the system shop, just got even more awesome. January 15, 1494. Today was a special one because it's Bleach Manga Update Day. Readers around the world got excited once again. Although Bleach manga wasn't very popular compared to One Piece manga, it's still very popular indeed. Especially among women. Rob noticed this strange situation because he could see the data from the system. Every time he updated the Bleach manga, he was getting art points from females at 10% higher than males. In this case, 10% is a very frightening percentage of the difference. The population of the 4 seas, in general, was estimated to be in the hundreds of millions, among whom were his followers estimated in the tens of millions. You can imagine 10% of tens of millions of people. What Rob noticed, in general, was that women of this world were more attracted to Bleach manga. He can already guess why. Whole Cake Island. Mama.
That little bitch has been kidnapped, is she going to be raped? I want to know, I really want to know, I want to see it happen.
Big Mom was excited while reading the new Bleach manga volume, which was titled
Arrancar, the Hueco Mundo Sneak Entry Arc.
Although Bleach and One Piece manga are fundamentally different from each other in the previous Rob universe, Bleach had a lot of operational problems. However, in this world Rob has barely succeeded in organizing it, extracting its core, and removing the residue in a manga-like layout of One Piece, so that it does not cause any confusion to the readers. Big Mom, who was still holding her pretty figure, was subconsciously looking down on every other pretty woman when she saw that Orihime Inoue was being forcibly snatched away to Hueco Mundo. She felt like she wanted to see the world on fire. That was this kind of event that made her want to read more from this book, although she prefers One Piece more. That's why she likes Aizen. She thought that this kind of man, scheming and strong, if he was in this world, would easily become a pirate king. The world government would suffer endless headaches and might even fall. She didn't know yet that she hadn't seen anything real from Aizen. When she saw the real Aizen, her current assessment would become very poor, because it really isn't enough to describe someone like Aizen. But since she doesn't know that there is an ancient monster more terrifying than Aizen, also present in this world, she can think she was as a frog at the bottom of a well too. Not only Aizen was popular among the evil pirates, but even Ulquiorra became more and more popular. His calmness, wit, strength, charisma, and even his looks made everyone admire this character. Even if the fans didn't really like his move of forcing Orihime to follow him to Hueco Mundo, this only contributed to his popularity. His fight against Ichigo was one of the most awaited fights by fans. As Grimmjow continued to survey the ground with Ichigo, even with his hollow mask Ichigo couldn't really do anything at this point. This made everyone terrified by the power of the Arrancar. Not even the most advanced numbers showed up yet. Ulquiorra was the most powerful among those that had appeared so far, and his number is only 4.
How about number 3? How about number 2? Heek. And what about the number 1? Were they all stronger than the Ulquiorra?
As stated in the title of the arc, with further help from Urahara, who opened Garganta to them, Ichigo and his team infiltrated Hueco Mundo to rescue Orihime, despite the categorical refusal of the Soul Society leader Yamamoto, and they also got support once again from Rukia and Rinji. The world of Hueco Mundo was very strange. His appearance in the manga caused a lot of controversy and astonishment. The reaction of the readers was far from simple this time. After all, they can't see another world every time. Especially among Ohara archaeologists passionate about recording and researching abnormal phenomena, as when the Soul Society first appeared, Professor Clover instructed his young scholars to look for any records that mention something like Hueco Mundo. This was hell in the world of Bleach. All kinds of creepy hollow are everywhere here. That's why Ichigo, Uryu, and Chad's bravery has won the admiration of millions. As humans, they voluntarily choose to enter hell to save their friends. That remembered them by Luffy bravery from the last volume of the One Piece manga. On their way to Las Noches, they encountered all kinds of problems and obstacles, but they were all bypassed, and the appearance of a little girl like Nell in this desolate place was really strange to readers. But since they found her so cute, no one cared to doubt her background, except for some deep-brained analysts, like those commissioned by the world government to study Rob's manga well, in order to compose their own manga, so the shocking truth behind this little girl will stay for later. After reaching Las Noches, they found themselves at a crossroads, and so the quintet had to separate and go a different route for each of them. They had to fight their own battles from this point on. Here ends the second part of the Arrancar arc and leaves everyone hanging off the cliff. Mihawk closed today's folder with slight disappointment. The arc ended when Ichigo met his opponents Arrancar and was going to fight them. Well, this was a little lower in quality. The fights are very few. I hope the next part will change my mind. Mihawk threw the manga book to the side and continued his intense training, this time trying to master his own armament haki, which still hadn't officially entered the entry level. He had an idea that, if he could implement it, he could bring the Getsuga Tensho back into this world again, all of which was based on his armament haki. Flying Island, Merville. This world of swordsmen is interesting, but since the Soul Society arc has become less good, how long does the damned Rob plan to continue dividing this arc into several parts? We want battles. Fights. That's what stirs the blood of strong men. Why the hell would I care what happens to a captured girl?
Let me see a refreshing fight. Ichigo's face is repeatedly crushed by that blue-haired bastard. Why can't he do anything about it? Yes, Captain. That's weird, didn't he defeat even a captain of Shinigami, Kachiki Byakuya? So why does he seem so weak? Something is wrong somewhere. You guys noticed that too?
I believe he has reached a bottleneck, and now he is having problems in his inner world with his own hollow or even his Zanpakuto spirit, obviously unable to release their true power. Yes, you're smart, Captain.
Jahahaha. Of course, I'm smart. Who do you think is your captain? I'm the strongest swordsman in the world, Golden Lion Shiki. Chapter 108, Roger copies the road poneglyph from Big Mom easily. Alabasta Arc, appearance of Ace. New World. On a small, uninhabited island near Whole Cake Island, the Oro Jackson ship was parked stealthily here. Obviously, Roger pirates did not come here with good intentions. Captain Roger, are you sure about that? Charlotte Lin is pretty savage after all. Do you look at your captain with disdain? The fat man's words stopped in his throat when he heard the response of his captain. This man was a member of the Roger Pirates and his name was Nosden. My order is clear and straight, you must follow it unconditionally. I'll go alone and come back on my own. We need the road poneglyph that Charlotte Lin has in her possession at any cost, even if we must become thieves. Understood. But... Captain, but we are already thieves, is there anything left that we haven't stolen? Wahahaha. Is that right? Under the watchful eyes of his crew, Roger left the ship, Oro Jackson, by swimming. This time his goal is to reach Big Mom's den. His crew wasn't worried about him, they were more worried about Big Mom herself, because Roger would definitely create a big mess from the moment he entered her territory. Recently, Whole Cake Island has been open for the masses to visit, provided they don't cause trouble. All in all, the island was very lively and filled with all kinds of people, and the reason was the art store. Since the advent of the art store, the place has become much more lively than it was in the past. The art store has become the favorite place where Big Mom spends almost all of her time. So Roger had almost no problem infiltrating Big Mom's cake castle. He was certainly surprised at how poorly the Big Mom pirates were at guarding their land. Is this still the territory of the Big Mom pirates? Or does it look like he came to the wrong place? But the most important thing now is that thing. Yes, that thing hanging in the sky. Why does it look so familiar? As he gazes at the art store's beacon hanging over Whole Cake Island that resembles an open book, Roger enters a state of temporary bewilderment. Sure, he's seen that somewhere. Roger remembered right away. After all, he couldn't forget something of such importance. It had been the only thing on his mind lately. This was an art store. After learning about it, Roger continues his trip to find his target first, before checking out the art store later. His observation haki was extremely powerful, and in addition to his unbelievable ability, voice of all the things, there was nothing he couldn't find in this world. He managed to smoothly avoid the low guard and entered the depths of Big Mom's den without any incident. He eventually arrived at a slightly darkened hall, at the end of which was a relatively large cage. Inside the cage were 3 poneglyphs. 1 red and 2 ordinaries. At first, I thought I would need to use strength to get here, but who knew my luck was this great? Wahahaha. Roger took out his sword ace and approached the cage that had poneglyph stones inside, not even giving him a single glance before slashing with his sword. As if it was slicing tofu, the steel cage was sliced very smoothly and it didn't even produce any sound. A second later, several steel rods fell from the cage and an extremely wide entrance was formed in front of Roger. Before they fell to the ground and caused an unnecessary commotion, they stopped in the air as if someone was manipulating them with a telekinetic ability. But in truth, Roger's mastery of Conqueror Haki was so strong that he could achieve such a feat. With a single glance from him, dozens of metal and steel rods stopped in the air before he quietly tossed them into the corner without a single iota of noise. Roger's gaze returned to the road poneglyph. That was what he came here for. Originally, he was intending to create a big commotion, and he probably made Lin bedridden for a few days because of him. But who would have expected to get it so easily? Didn't even try seriously. The little effort he did, however, was to swim 20 kilometers across from the uninhabited island to here.
But that doesn't mention it at all. He could swim the length across half of the Grand Line if he gave it a try, not to mention a paltry 20 kilometers. He can guess the reason for this low guard. It may have been because of the art store that his friend Rob opened here.
Wahahaha. Even if you don't remain a member of my crew, you'll still be of great help to me, brat.
Roger came forward with a big smile and entered the cage, then took out a large piece of paper before pouring a bottle of ink on it.
Not waiting for the ink to dry, he quickly affixed it to the punch-lip and printed its contents comprehensively.
When he was finished, he looked at the copy in his hands satisfied before he folded it and hid it well in his bag.
Now, he has done what he came for.
What Roger didn't know was that today was a very important day.
Who will take care of guarding his house when the rejoicing day comes? It was the day of the popular One Piece manga update.
So for sure, Roger was very lucky, that's it.
The 4 C's. Mary Geos. Skypiea. Women Island. Drum Island. Alabasta Island. Wano Country. And finally Whole Cake Island.
All of these areas and more were on a hot plate, more specifically, the Alabasta Kingdom.
After all, the title of this arc was Baroque Works Saga, Alabasta Arc, Appearance of Ace. The arc is very much awaited by everyone.
The arc that all the thing about the Straw Hat Pirates trip from the start of Grand Line until now.
The first clash between the Straw Hat Pirates and a semi-governmental organization. This was what everyone was looking forward to seeing. After all, the saga name was all about it. A battle against the Shichibukai and his organization. How will the Straw Hats perform? But, why the hell is the first part called Appearance of Ace? Is this Ace that important to be the most prominent title in the entire volume?
Only when they read the volume did they know who Ace was. When they saw Ace's amazing appearance and knew his relationship with Luffy, readers' minds almost exploded in shock.
He was Luffy's older brother. Mary Geos. Member of Whitebeard Pirates.
The bald Gorosei looked at his old comrades and muttered softly.
Rare Logia user.
The blonde Gorosei rubbed his chin while saying an extra sentence.
Older brother of Luffy.
The mustachioed Gorosei with a birthmark on his forehead looked at the picture of Ace meeting with Luffy's crew with a bewildered expression as he echoed his words in a kind of frustration.
Guys, my earlier suggestion that we should prevent Garp's son from having children, will you seriously reconsider it?
The tall and long-bearded Gorosei said with a grim expression, while the rest nodded seriously as well.
This wasn't a bad proposition after all.
They should look into it seriously, for the safety of the world.
Plus 5,000 art points from Gorosei? Plus 50-20 art points from Gorosei?
Plus 6,500 art points from GOLD Roger. Plus 1,000 art point from Portgas de Rouge.
Chapter 109, Baroque Works Saga, Alabasta Arc, Part 1, Appearance of Ace.
As his wife's childbearing was getting closer and closer, and since he had taken care of almost everything he wanted to do before Robin was born, Rob was content to sit next to Alvia the whole time. He took care of her needs with so much love and care, even his waitresses suggested helping him with that, but he refused and ordered them only to take care of the stores selected for them. Even manga's weekly posting portion was handled by the system without having to go to the art store and do it manually. He didn't even care to review his art points after that, but he was more interested in taking care of Alvia. From visiting Whole Cake Island until now, it's been just under a month, and it's only a few days left until little Robin's birth. Today was January 25, 1494. The day to update the new volume of One Piece. Before getting to this point, Rob had already decided to split the relatively long Alabasta arc into 2 parts.
The first part is the appearance of Ace. The second part is Alabasta War. This is for 2 reasons. First, to ignite the passion of readers and keep the viewership for One Piece manga high as always. Second, in order to delay the repercussions of the Alabasta arc as much as possible, which will undoubtedly ascend to the sky after the update of the second part. Only the information about the Pluton will put Alabasta in the eye of the storm, not to mention the dignity of the world government that will take a beating in this arc. The second part of the Alabasta arc will really be the first real challenge that Rob will have to overcome at all costs. But now he's at a time so sensitive that he can't think of anything else. His daughter was only to be born in a few days. Why would he go and ask for trouble at this sensitive time? These were the reasons why he split the arc into 2 parts. Husband, I saw the update light from the window. Did you just update the One Piece manga? They had already returned to Ohara after spending a very enjoyable week on Sky Island, so they were now lying on their bed and cuddling each other in their home within the Knowledge Village. Yes, I just published it. Here is your folder. You don't even need to ask. Did you think I would forget about you? You really don't forget something about me. I can't find any loophole to find a problem with you.
Alvia took the manga book from his hands with a sullen expression, in contrast to the sweet feelings that were exploding inside her heart that she couldn't express in words. Rob snapped his finger and then several paper hands appeared and grabbed Alvia's hands tightly, preventing her from beginning to read the folder.
What are you doing? You said you wanted to find a problem with me. Here's a loophole for you.
Rob said with a provocative smile as if he could already read her true feelings like an open book. Recently, she's been acting like tsundere in contrast to her motherly and loving nature, so Rob decides to correct the small problem here and now before it becomes big enough to affect his future plans.
Looks like I pampered you up a lot? You're starting to bully me again.
When Rob saw tears gathering in her eyes as if she was about to cry, he immediately cancelled his ability.
No, I was joking. How can I bully my cute wife? Who dares bully my wife? Get out now. BFT. Ha 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 ha. Alvia's tearful expression very quickly turned into a laughing one, as if she was a professional actress. Even Rob was tricked. When he saw her laughing, he felt a bittersweet feeling in his heart, as if he was both happy and sad at the same time. Really, the pregnant woman was an endless headache. Ha 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 ha. Luffy and his buddies got into trouble this time. If they didn't eat all the food, they wouldn't have had to use Karu as bait to catch the fish, nor would they have caught Okaman instead. He even could getting their faces. Isn't that a bit bad? Ha 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 ha. This sea cat is so cute. Look, he was afraid they'd really grab him for food. Run away. They would really eat you. Rob didn't say anything. He was smiling the whole time seeing his wife's chuckles as she flipped the pages. One Piece comedy was still at its peak at this point, so it's no wonder his wife couldn't stop her laughing. Ha 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 ha. They thought he was dead, ha. That boy is very familiar. Isn't he the same one who was looking for Luffy on Drum Island? Familiar? From which side is he familiar to you? Rob was hugging Alvia's head in his chest and stroked her soft hair. While she was reading the manga with a pleasure expression, she was literally living in bliss. I don't know, it feels familiar, it feels strange, but it is true since you know all about the parallel world you told me about. Why don't you tell me the truth about this young man? Who could he be? Why is he so familiar to me? Rob naturally knew why she felt so familiar with Ace. After all, Ace's mom was like a sister to her. They were sisters who lived, worked, ate, and enjoyed each other all the time. Not only Alvia had this feeling, but all the other sisters. This was before Smoker announced his identity. Inside the art store on Women's Island. Sora. Belmere. Toki. Matriarch. And even the Empress of Amazon Lily, Gloriosa, who has succeeded in building a strong relationship with the group of waitresses, they all feel the same way when they read today's volume. Their eyes subconsciously fall on Rouge, who was reading the manga also in a shaky expression. Just like the feelings Sora, Alvia, and also Belmere had when they first saw their children in the manga, it happened with Rouge this time around. The feeling of familiarity can't indescribable. Those were the best words that could describe Rouge's feeling at the moment. His sleeping while eating reminded her of her husband. Her husband's male temperament. Those eyes. That hair. Those cute freckles that she also had. That hat, even the familiar name. No, it wasn't just a household name, it was Port-Gastee Ace. Port-Gastee. Isn't that her nickname? Everything from him screamed with familiarity. Was this her son? Rouge's hand touched Ace's smiling face in the manga while her eyes became misty. Without realizing it, she was crying. Ha? Am I crying? Why am I crying? Although Ace's debut in the manga was hilarious to the extreme,
the mother's emotion when she sees her unborn son for the first time can't be explained by logic.
Back to Rob and Alvia's marital home.
Alvia was still asking Rob a lot of questions, while Rob was answering her with vague answers. He didn't want to confirm anything, even if it was only Alvia's. He wasn't sure Alvia wouldn't tell Rouge. After all, Rouge was like her sister. Until now, Rob was getting goosebumps whenever he remembered the tragic events that would happen to Ace in the future, and he had to paint it as it is. Whenever he remembered it, he rained curses on the original author, as it put him in a very awkward situation. He had a complicated relationship with Rouge, this loving mother with a tragic future, one of his kind waitresses. He didn't want to see her suffer. But when he remembered that he must be the cause of their suffering, he was cursing his luck hard. He didn't know how to face things anymore. In fact, he was a little scared. No matter how thick his complexion was, it didn't work anymore at this point. Events were heading towards a dangerous and awkward situation that he didn't know how to get past. Plus 6,500 art points from Gold Roger. Plus 1,000 art points from Portgas de Rouge. And of the cruelty of fate, both mother and father read the volume about their son at the same time. As if these damned gods were reminding him that no matter how much he enjoyed his life in this world, he still had to taste some bitterness. "Het, do you think we are so merciful?
You got lost in thought again, my dear? Why don't you tell me your concerns? You can count on me, you know."
What Rob didn't notice was that his worried expressions were all watched by his wife.
Sigh.
"Don't ask me anymore. That kid Ace is indeed the son of Captain Roger and Sister Rouge."
Exactly as I expected.
As it is already clear, his name is Portgas de Ace. After all, it couldn't be more clear. When he let the cat out of the bag, he felt kind of relieved for some reason. Don't confirm anything to Sister Rouge, she has to figure it out on her own, and I think she has already figured it out at this point.
Everyone should know that. Do you think they are stupid? But why does the kid, although he doesn't kid anymore, have his mother's nickname? You still hide a lot from me. That means he can't be Luffy's biological brother, right? Yeah. Mary Geos.
Inside the art store, celestial dragons used to remove their bubble-like cape, as the air inside the art store was too fresh to breathe. It would be a loss for them if they continued to wear that spacesuit inside the wonderful and safe art store. They always felt that this kind air was meant for them, as if Rob was giving them special care. Naturally, because they are gods, they were very satisfied with Rob, because he always does the things they want. This was only their imagination, but Rob would not have known this. Had he known of it, he would have vomited blood. Who wants to take care of you, trash? It's just that the art store's cool features are common to all of his stores. That would be his answer if he knew what they were thinking. The air was so wonderful that even disgusting slaves could not pollute it, as they thought. Little by little they began to get used to living without their bubbles, and at some point, they found them annoying. It was a massive achievement by Rob at this point, as he had succeeded in correcting one of the most trivial habits of celestial dragons. But of course, not all of them. There were many groups from Noble's world inside the art store, both male and female, and accompanied by their tired guards and kind slaves, who seemed more considerate and kind than ever. What a terrifying ace! What a powerful ace! His devil fruit is extremely powerful. Is he really Luffy's brother? Why are their names different? Yes, did you guys see how he burned all those Baroque Works Organization ships? If I had this power, I would have become a pirate too. Shut up, you idiot. Someone will hear you and will tell the 5 elders. They don't realize yet that they were talking loudly and almost everyone could hear them. But in truth, at this point they all wished they were pirates. They were so envious of Luffy for his fun life, they also wanted to try it out. As gods, why can't they have fun like humans? This person, Okama, Bonclay, is so annoying. He's got almost all of their faces. Isn't that a bit dangerous? Yes, it turns out to be Mr. 2, and he also got the king's face. That's really a problem. It's not just a bit dangerous, that would be a real problem. But they did the friendship sign, that's a proper countermeasure, isn't it? This time a female celestial dragon who looked a bit pretty, unlike the disgusting shapes of the other celestial dragons in the group, she said that. Ah, you're right, I didn't really understand that part. This sea cat looks delicious. Should we send the navy to hunt 1 or 2 from the Alabasta Sea?
Why do you think it's delicious? Didn't Vivi-chan say, sea cats are sacred creatures that shouldn't be eaten? But Luffy said it would taste good? You idiot, stop making trouble for Vivi-chan. Kia. Chopper-chan looks like he's already merged with the group, why is he so cute? Shut up, didn't you see him when he transformed? He has nothing to do with the cuteness you're talking about. New World, Tato Land. Whole Cake Island was in a big chaos because Big Mom was so angry.
She was really very angry. Someone dared to enter the most forbidden place and stole something from her, but she didn't even know who it was and what they stole. So it looked like she had gone into a fit of rage and was starting to destroy everything in her path. Even her sons who tried to stop her were kicked. While the chaos was outside because of him, Roger was inside the art store reading the last available manga volume, after reading 3 previous volumes he had missed, namely Whiskey Peak, Little Garden, Drum Island. He knew Dr. Kureha already, he had dealt with her in the past, so he understood what she meant when she said his will still persists. Residents of Nanohana, C. His hand froze the moment he wanted to raise it to his mouth. The poison of the desert strawberry is really, according to the legends. Ace, pft. Residents of Nanohana, he has come back to life. Ace, it's my fault, looks like I fell asleep. Residents of Nanohana, did you sleep? This is impossible. How can a person fall asleep while talking and eating? Look. He went back to eating as if nothing had happened. Ace, why is everyone here? Residents of Nanohana, we were worried about you. Ace, do you run a comedy group here? Restaurant owner, no, but. Well, I'm happy you're fine. After hearing this, Ace went back to sleep. Restaurant owner and customers, again? Smoker, you seem to be eating carelessly, despite all the fuss about you. Ace. Smoker, what brought the captain of the 2nd Division of the Whitebeard Pirates to this kingdom? Port Gas D. Ace. Roger closed his eyes and opened them in shock, again and again, then burst out laughing. Wahahaha. Is that my son? He's just like me, he's a replica of me. Funny, so funny, he made the restaurant owner scared shit. After laughing for a while at his son's comedic attitude, unlike his mother who cried when she first saw him, Roger began to think things through carefully. The first thing he cared about was why would his son be just a squad leader under that crescent-shaped mustache bastard? Wouldn't he follow in his footsteps and become the Pirate King himself? Chapter 110, Alabasta in an Uproar. Little Robin's Birth. Kingdom of Alabasta. Today Alabasta was in an uproar. No, to say that it was just an uproar is really a little bit. Civilians came to the capital Aliabarna where the art store is located from various places such as Nanohana, the port city, the desert paradise Yuba, Iromalu, Rainbase, Katoria, and many others. Only because they heard that their dear kingdom would get a main story in a world-famous book series. Obviously, One Piece was only more popular in Aliabarna and around the capital. Not everyone in Alabasta was familiar with it. Although everyone could see the art store beacon illuminating the night sky across the kingdom, that didn't mean that everyone would care. But the event this time seemed to be a little special. There's been a lot of news lately about weird stuff, but it's interesting like Alabasta has a bleak future and everyone can see it in the One Piece story. So many people in different areas of Alabasta, they want to see this bleak future with their own eyes, in order to would have countermeasures. That's why Aliabarna was so crowded today. The royal guards struggled a lot with the workload. It was because the newcomers came in almost endless groups. This. Unbelievable. That's really a sacred sea cat. Unbelievable. This is really Nanohana, but there are a lot of strange buildings are not yet built. As if it was photographed by Den Den Mushi of the picture. So, this is the Shichibukai, crocodile. He looks scary. Oh my god, he's so powerful, he can control the sand. This is a devil fruit. Look guys, the royal palace has appeared. It's exactly the same. The royal guard too. Is this His Majesty, Cobra?
He looks too old for his current age. I think Luffy is in trouble, Smoker is after him seriously. His older brother Ace is a captain in the Whitebeard Pirates, so he will be strong, isn't he? This bastard Sanji bought our princess a female dancer's clothes. Ha 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 ha. That's funny, so funny. Look, Zoro really bombing without a sound. But Nami and Vivi, they are really very pretty, Sanji is excused. The discussions about today's volume didn't end. Inside the art store the discussions were on a completely different level, but outside it didn't seem to be much different either. As everyone continued to read today's chapters, shock grew higher and higher in their hearts. They all believed that this story was true now. With evidence in their hands, the Alabasta residents couldn't help but recognize their kingdom after all. Alabasta residents have literally gone crazy. Today chapters were a feast for their eyes. People who read the manga for the first time felt the pleasure of reading the manga, and also regretted that they didn't read the previous volumes, so they lost all their money to buy them all. Aliabarna entered into an uproar after uproar, as if it was a market with the size of a city. Royal Palace, Aliabarna. Your Majesty, you look very handsome in the manga, hee hee. Queen Nefertari left a chuckle while she reads the part where her husband, the king, appeared. This wasn't his first appearance in the manga, it was in flashback or by clonability or something else, but now this was actually the first appearance of the king of Alabasta in the arc. King Cobra gave a sideways glance to his wife who was sitting next to him while he sighed with a heavy smile. In fact, his only interest in this manga is two things: the first, his daughter, Vivi, and the second, his wife. This the only been on his mind a lot lately. Why is there no trace of her next to him in the manga? This was what the queen had already noticed, so she was trying to console him and divert his attention to other things all the time. Don't trust pirates in the future, even if they are government parties, do you understand? Don't give the security of our peaceful country into the hands of evil pirates. Only pirates like the Straw Hats deserve it. No, I won't, that certainly won't happen. That's fine then, let's keep reading today's chapters, it's really fun. My Vivi-chan looks so pretty. Queen Nefertari's eyes turn into a heart shape as she sees her cute princess in a female dancer's outfit. Even her husband had the same expression on his face, but he secretly hated Sanji. Because of him his unborn daughter would become the sweetheart of millions of hearts. Millions of unknown people will rival him for his daughter's love, that's unforgivable. On the mention of the daughter, the person who really deserved the hate of Cobra, the author of the manga himself, and the one who caused the nosebleeds of millions who became obsessed with Nami and Vivi, was going through an important event in his life recently, an event he had been waiting for a long time. April 2, 1494. The month of his wife's birth has officially entered. And there was only 1 hour left until the entry of the next day, meaning that there were only a few hours left until the estimated time of birth. You, get out of here, why the hell is you not waiting outside like the others? I'm her husband. In the O'Hara art store, right in the medical ward, Dr. Kureha was asking Rob out of the medical room, but Rob refused to budge an inch, while the nurses who had been summoned from the hospital they hardly hide their laughters. Consider me just a vase here, and don't bother with me, okay? What the hell did you say? Does the vase breathe air? How can I think of you as a vase? You're causing trouble again. It's just giving birth, why are you so worried? Do you look down on my medical skills? I've delivered hundreds of pregnant women in the past, not a single soul I lost before. Rob was constantly scolded, to the point that he became speechless. Suddenly his wife's sweaty hand grabbed his wrist and pressed him hard. Alvia looked at him with a gentle smile, before speaking in a low voice. I'm feeling so little pain, you don't have to worry, my dear. Rob's heart tingled when he heard her low voice. He leaned over and kissed her sweaty forehead. Everything will be fine, you just have to put up with it for a little while, okay? When Alvia gently nodded, Rob finally walked out of the medical room and left everything in Kureha's hands. I'm counting on you, call me if something happens, I'll be outside. Don't worry, just take off. Rob walked out into the reception hall, which wasn't empty. All the waitressing sisters were present, including the 15 women that Rob had saved before, plus many new faces whom he already knew. Their visit really surprised Rob. Rob was so grateful to all of them, they came because they wanted to share his joy after all.
Rob was embarrassed when he caught sight of Gloriosa. He hadn't seen her since the day he acted like an idiot and broke into her bathroom. He always wanted to apologize for his childish behavior, but he didn't find the opportunity to do so because he was too busy. Rob is really surprised by the presence of the Empress and her guards. Early congratulations, Mr. Rob. I hope your wife gives birth to a healthy baby safely. Gloriosa walked over to Rob's side and said with a gentle smile, she seemed very beautiful and peaceful.
Miss Gloriosa, thank you for coming today, I really appreciate it. When are coming out little Robin? Everyone is excited about it.
Belmere said, which seemingly more mature than last year, 16 years now. She was also excited about the family getting a new member. Everyone knows how obsessed their boss is with his unborn daughter, so Robin became the star of the show even before she was born, or perhaps since her manga debut as Miss All Sunday.
Soon, not much time left.
Rob then received congratulations and best wishes from Sara, Toki, Rouge, Matriarch and her family, and archaeologists led by Clover. Plus a stranger was sitting in the corner, he and his wife. After the man hesitated for a while, he stood up and went in Rob's direction to offer his congratulations as well.
Brother-in-law, I think it's our first meeting, isn't it? This guy looked a bit like Alvia. He looked in his 30s and wore glasses.
Rob wasn't surprised that by the presence of this man, because he was the one who allowed it in the first place.
You're Alvia's brother, Nico Oren, aren't you?
My wife has told me a lot about you. Sorry, I didn't look for you in the past, but I've been really busy.
No, really, I understand.
Alvia's brother was very humble, did not push the matter too far, so he and Rob reached a tacit agreement that they would not talk about it on an occasion like this. As the congratulations and happy chatting continued between Rob and his guests, time flew by and the new day entered. It was already past midnight. But the art store in Ohara was still very lively. Or it could be said that the entire Ohara was extremely lively. Who in Ohara doesn't know that the owner's wife was pregnant and close to childbearing? Therefore, it can be said that everyone was waiting for this day. After all, Rob and Alvia were widely known personalities, not only in Ohara but in the entire Four Seas and other regions of the world. Everyone wanted to celebrate with the person who brought joy and entertainment to their hearts. May 2, 1494, same as Robin's original birth date, according to the Book of Deep Blue.
At 2 o'clock after midnight, a baby's cry resounded in the medical room. Congratulations, she's a girl, and she's healthy too, Correa said after carefully examining the newborn baby. Doctorin, hand her to me, Alvia said with a happy smile and a tired expression. Certainly, he.
At this moment Rob walked in, followed by a large group of women.
The first thing that was reflected in their eyes was the stunning and angelic scene of Alvia holding a newborn baby girl with maternal care.
Rob felt his world become very peaceful at this moment. His heart was beating wildly. All that was left in his field of vision were only two people, Robin and Alvia. Finally, after a long wait, the big day was here. That wraps up this part of What If Becoming a Mangaka in One Piece World.
Thanks so much for listening.
As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well.
See you in the next one.